This is the North End. This is the North End.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the North End podcast / YouTube channel. We are here to discuss the Premier League. It is a very busy time in the Premier League. I've got Paul and I've got Azaz with me here. Hop on screen, fellas. Good to see you, but good. It's been a bit, right? I haven't been here for a bit. Zaz hasn't been here for a bit. We've been kind of.
You haven't?
I haven't been here for a bit properly. No. Is that true?
That's a classic. I didn't notice joke.
Yeah. Fair enough. Lots going on in the Premier League. Of course, we had a game today. The draw between Crystal Palace and Man United. Disappointment in Man United, Paul. I'm going to say hello first, but I also just want to get a quick thought on that from you. I thought United played pretty well today, but I thought Crystal Palace weren't out of the game. Ended up 1-1 from a free kick in the 92nd minute. What are your thoughts, and how are you? Can you do both?
I could.
Let's go to you. I think Paul's internet connection has gone back to being shite. So good to see you, mate.
Good to see you
hope
too.
you're doing well. We're gonna fly by the seat of our pants here. Paul is frozen. I'm gonna just remove him from the stream for now, and he'll figure it out. You watched the game. First of all, good to see you. How are you? We chatted a little bit before we went live. But how's things? You good?
Good, mate. Life is good. Work is busy. Life is busy. Not the best season so far for Liverpool, but as we were saying in the backstage area, it's not really January the 18th in the Premier League season, right? So last year, this time, we were 14 points behind Man City. So not saying that we're going to do anything crazy and catch any leaders up or anything like that. No, I am aware that Liverpool are having a major transitional season. However, still want to give it a bit of time just to see where this all settles down. And, you pick up 2-3 wins in a row and suddenly everything looks different. Life's good. Wish my team was playing a little bit better. It's a bit sad. But really, there's bigger problems in the world. And you, mate, how are you doing?
It's good. I mean, it's a similar position to you, but maybe not as miserable, but still, because of our Spurs recent form, we've lost 6 out of the last 10, I think, and just been really not the team that we were at the end of last season. And obviously, there's questions about Conte and all those other things. I just came back from a vacation in Colombia with a bunch of friends and very, very relaxed, very happy with all of that. So I've enjoyed that. And then you come back to the football situation and everything is stressful. It looks like Paul's back with us again. But yeah, I'm doing.
What's stressful? Wi-Fi is stressful.
Yes, Wi-Fi is stressful when it doesn't work. Technology can be stressful, Paul, for sure.
How about
Azaz and I were just catching up on how we're doing with our clubs and stuff. Of course, your club played today. We were trying to talk about that at the beginning before your internet.
Could have been 10 in a row, boys. Could have been 10 in a row.
Could have been 10 in a row. 10 in a row. I mean, it's United in a good place. Are you in as good a place personally as well? I just want to check in on your how you're doing.
No, I'm fine. I'm all good. I did learn that maybe give myself some time between picking up my kid from daycare after school and watching Man United blow some points, because I was definitely not having it. I think some parent caught my kid being rude to her kid and decided that it was her place to scold my child for being rude. And she did it in front of me. And then I had words.
All things that did poorly.
Words that maybe would have been a little bit calmer and less growly if I hadn't just watched Man United draw to Crystal Palace.
Zaz and I have been talking.
Nothing inappropriate was said. It was just tone. I got her with the tone.
We were chatting a little bit before you came on, just in regards to sort of where we are in the season.
And then I lost you guys.
It's mid-January. It is not necessarily mid-January though. Like as far as like where we normally would be in mid-January, things are a little bit behind. Your internet is also failing again, Paul. I'm noticing. There he goes. All right, Azaz. Let's wait for Paul to get his things sorted before we keep talking to him. You watched the game today, right? We talking about.
I did, yeah.
Palace Man U. I thought I watched the first half comfortably, and then I had to stream, so I had the game on in the background. But I did notice that as good as I think United are becoming, because I do think they are getting better, they didn't really dominate a Palace side who haven't been very good. Like this is a Palace side that that got beat by 4-0 by a struggling Spurs side. They're not good at scoring goals. They don't really have an identity. They're struggling a little bit to figure out what they're supposed to do up front. When it comes to who starts for Palace, when it comes to who's going to score the goals, what are they doing moving forward? They look, really disjointed, but in this game didn't necessarily look disjointed. I think they looked probably better than you'd expected them to. It's very back and forth. What were your thoughts on the game? It wasn't a Man United dominance by any means.
No, I do think that United are going to have these games as well in their arc back up. I just think the Premier League's so frigging competitive, particularly when you're away.
Yeah.
I think United had a lot of the ball. I was working as well, so it wasn't like I was fully watching, but I was watching enough to see what was going on. Looked like United had a lot of the ball, but they gave up a lot of shots and chances as well. So
big ones too. Like I think De Gea made some big saves. There was one from Elise, I think that's
Elise.
He
was a goal scorer.
Yeah, just before the end of the first half, he got his hand up on the ball, and it was an incredible play. Looked like it was one top corner.
And then right at the end, Palace almost nicked it. I think it was Zaha went through and Wan-Bissaka did a last-ditch, like classic Wan-Bissaka tackle. So it could have been.
It was very good, actually. Yeah,
great tackle. So
classic Wan-Bissaka looking really good, even though he was out of position in the first place to allow for that break. So.
Shouldn't have been there in the first place, but did a good job in making up for it for sure.
Yeah.
So while we've got you, Paul, you tell us your take on the game.
Yeah, before your internet fails again.
I mean, it was Crystal Palace is a tough place to go to. It was an amazing goal to tie the game. It happened very late. We were not clinical enough. We needed 2 goals that game. They were good for a goal for sure. De Gea is going to make amazing saves. That's just part of what he's going to bring. But they did a lot that game to score a goal, and they ended up getting one pretty unexpectedly out of nothing, I thought, late in the game. But the reality is United just didn't look clinical. And for me, they looked pretty leggy. It was not a great situation to have that game scheduled midweek. It was scheduled about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago. Like there wasn't a lot of preparation time to account for this game.
What's the reason for that, Paul? Was it a reschedule or was it like?
Yeah, it was just a reschedule for. I think it was more for Crystal Palace's schedule than it wasn't. Okay. It was something to do with I don't know, winter or some shit.
It wasn't from a postponement previously, though. It was
Yeah, it was a postponement for. It was for a postponement. I think it was the Queen, if I'm remembering right, when they shut down London for the Queen's funeral.
It was that one, yeah.
Right.
Which is I have no problem with that being delayed for that reason. It's just more of it would have been nice to have a little bit more notice, I think, for the team and to not have the game rescheduled in kind of a congested period for us because we have a lot of cup runs still. If it's just a game to make up something, make it for later. Once the Carling Cup is at least done and we're not playing that as well as the FA and the Premier League and we have Aston or
so many games to play for every team.
Yeah, and the biggest bummer of the game, it's weird. The biggest bummer of the game isn't even what happened in this game. It's what results because of this game. Casemiro not being available against Arsenal is going to be unfortunate for everybody, I think, because it would have been nice to have seen the best version of United against Arsenal. And now we're just not going to have who is our best player as of right now available, and we're gonna have to see what we could do with fucking.
So, Paul, can you elaborate on that? Was there an injury that took place that I missed? Because
he was on a yellow suspension. If he played today and got a yellow, he's toast. So a lot of people are talking about Wan-Bissaka looking really good today. He got a yellow because Wan-Bissaka was so out of position that Casemiro was left basically surprised by it's just him and Zaha.
Ooh, that does hurt.
He had to do something. But yeah, that's gonna suck. But on a whole, I thought they played pretty well. It wasn't a terrible game. It was a bit of a snatch and grab.
I feel like Rashford was a bit off. He didn't seem quite as
looked a little leggy.
Yeah, on point as he has been previously. He had a couple of chances in the first half that I thought, even one of them was offside, but even just his his attempt was poor, and you're kind of looking like he doesn't look totally fit or comfortable.
He had a weird game. Like he just had one of those games where I think the field size is very compressed. It kind of isn't really his like style. Like he was in a cul-de-sac of players quite a bit. He played himself into a pack of players quite often. Because he was playing more centrally and he wasn't quite hugging the line. So he wasn't able to use his speed, and that's kind of like his Achilles heel when he's in that situation more often than not, I find. But yeah, it was a difficult game. The one thing that was maybe the big talking point for United fans is whether it was a penalty that should have been awarded with McTominay being pulled down in the box.
Yeah, for me that was a penalty. I have to say I was a bit surprised that didn't get called. Based on what I saw, I was like, oh man, I really thought that would have been called, considering what we're used to seeing, especially with the refereeing in this league at the moment.
I think it's like one of those ones where if the referee didn't call it, I would be like, oh fuck, like that should have been a pen. But I've seen it not given and I've seen it given.
Yeah.
My issue
right?
is maybe more with the benefit of VAR, like pick a lane, like is it or is it not? Like if the player gets to the ball before the body is taken out in any way, shape, or form, is it a penalty? Because that's an easy rule. Just make it consistent. Like I've seen that penalty given so many times that's kind of the classic thing. But
we could definitely talk about that being an issue forever, because the inconsistency, and we spoke about this in our WhatsApp chat over and over again. It's really difficult to watch often because you're just going, I mean, when is this gonna count? When is this going to mean something? When is it?
I think JP California will come in and say never a pen, and then I'll say, well, I can show you exexamples of when it was a pen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that's kind of the issue. Is
JP's just going to say it because he's being controversial. He likes to do that.
He's being provocative
for your love.
Provocateur.
The thing is on that as well is JP and other people often also say that the top teams get less decisions, but like today it went against Man United, right? Like I think there's different factors. I think there's a lot of home decisions that are given that aren't given away. That's probably a decision. That's probably a penalty at Old Trafford, and it's not at Selhurst Park. It's ridiculous.
Sometimes the fans and the noise have an effect on how the referee calls something, right? They don't want to get belligerent or be shredded by the fans, and it's just easier.
Hold on to that point. We'll be talking about that later too.
All right. Well, Paul, on that note, let's move on from that game, and what do we got next up?
I would just take a quick look at the league standings. I think it's probably worth us starting to talk more and more about the bottom as well as the top, because the top is well-traveled conversational ground, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the bottom of the table is going to start getting increasingly interesting, I think, because it's not as black and white as it's been in the past.
2 points between the 14th and the 20th spot.
It's so congested that 3 bad games could really cost somebody in what is I think probably the tightest neck and neck, the largest group of teams involved in the drop.
Also, Paul, if you don't mind me adding to that, it is the teams involved in it that I think is the most interesting, right? Like,
100%.
Like if you look at, you got Brentford in 8th, you got Nottingham Forest in 13th, and then when we look at below that, but from 14th to 20th, you've got Leicester, Leeds, Wolves. Bournemouth is probably the only team you might expect to be in that position. West Ham, Everton, Southampton are your bottom 3. Like, Southampton, I think maybe over the course of the last few seasons, they've slowly gotten worse, and I'm not that surprised that they're in that bottom 3 because it's somewhat expected. But and maybe you could say the same about Everton to some extent. But when we're talking about the clout of these clubs, right? West Ham, as we know, JP said at the beginning of the season, JP said that West Ham were going to finish in the top 6, and they were amazing, and they had all this momentum to move on and to be better. And here they are in 18th spot with 15, playing really shit football.
But JP was right about Haaland scoring goals, so we'll never hear
fair enough. I mean, this is the thing. We're right and wrong, and this isn't a slag against JP, but it is kind of. But I mean, looking at that bottom 3, did you guys ever expect? I mean, maybe Everton, maybe Southampton. I suppose I would say maybe they would. No. I would see them more in like a 12th, 13th, 14th position, not.
I would have
2 teams. I'm shocked by the bottom.
I would have felt pretty comfortable saying Nottingham Forest. I thought when I started the season, I was like, I expect them to go down. I expect it to be pretty obvious. Bournemouth, who are in that area anyways, I think they're there. Yeah. I think they will be. Yeah. I mean, Fulham is the one team I like. Once I started seeing how they were playing and how high energy they were, I was like, "This is great."
31 points for Fulham,
but that's shocking. Like I
it's
thought,
nuts.
maybe they would get enough points, but then eventually fizzle out and burn out. But
they're
where
above
they are
Brighton,
now,
who've been flying, in Brentford, who've had like 2 very good seasons.
It's nuts.
Fulham, it's bonkers that they're in 6. I mean, I didn't even think of Fulham because I didn't even think to look in the top 6 for them. Because that's I was like, oh shit, right.
You got to go all the way to the top.
Yeah, you got to go up to there to see them. I mean, really well coached Fulham have been, and they look at different sides.
I think Southampton is probably the only team where I'm not that surprised.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I think Everton,
they escape. It's like this is where they go, and then they escape, and that's their season, and that's the drama that they bring or have been bringing to their seasons lately.
Yeah.
So and maybe that's why I'm not surprised, because I've seen them there before. But
they've relied so much for so long on good recruitment and good. Their youth system has done really well for them. We've seen the likes of a lot of different big players come through that system, but that system doesn't seem to be functioning the way it used to. No. And we're now seeing the result of that. And a manager who was doing quite well for them for a period of time has been sacked, and now they just look a mess. Even though they beat City in an FA Cup game or a League Cup game that was shocking as well in itself. But yeah,
they're going to dine out on that win for a while.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is as well, when you look at the form table, like those teams are at the bottom of that as well. There's so many games coming thick and fast now that you could find yourself rooted in 3 weeks.
Nearly impossible to get out of it if you don't win something.
Yeah.
You got to put a streak together, right?
Completely. Like West Ham and Everton haven't won a game in their last 6 games, and Southampton were the same, but they did beat Everton last week. So it's tough, man. The other thing with West Ham and Everton particularly, it's a little bit toxic right now, which obviously pulls you down 1 or 2% as well.
Your ownership is
exactly And Everton have got like protests. On Saturday, the board were told don't come to the game. There's a lot going on at Everton at the moment. You don't need that in a relegation fight, actually. Like, unless the fans are ready for them to go down, because it
makes it
much
more difficult to put anything together, right? Yeah.
So maybe it's worth talking about Everton a little bit, because they are a team. I think we just got tired of saying how bad they were, that we maybe are guilty of neglecting just how storied and bad they actually are at the moment. Obviously, they are second last in the league. They just lost to Southampton. They're not firing Frank Lampard anytime soon, it seems like. I keep waiting for it to happen. I don't know why he's still surviving. They have not won a game in their last 6.
Can't afford it, Paul.
And maybe they can't afford it. But this is where things are starting to get interesting. They've had threats against the board. Their board were told do not attend games for risk of violence. They were told that by their Everton security team. Apparently, one of the board members, Denise Beret Basdale, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, was put in a headlock, like physically attacked by a fan. There have been death threats. Just really kind of scary, kind of, it's already past that level of this is no longer funny. This is just getting sad and kind of scary stuff.
It's a really interesting situation as well, because this is a team that has got a ton of investment from the ownership when it comes to a new stadium, right? So there's a new stadium build happening. That's a shit ton of money. Looks beautiful. Looks similar sort of to what Spurs did when it comes to.
It's going to be the nicest looking stadium in the championship.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I was about to say, Paul. Well said. I mean, it literally is going to be a shit ton of investment into something that the reward from it will be nearly nil. So it could sink the club completely, because they could arguably go bankrupt because of it, because there's so much money being spent on that. If the Spurs did it and they got lucky, to be fair, when they had Champions League football. So the money that was coming in for the 4 years that they got Champions League, they weren't expected to, help paid for the stadium, got them further ahead, and made it more, logistically speaking, easier to maintain themselves as to where they were. Whereas Everton, we're seeing them fail at every level as a football club in the league. They're going to lose all the money from Premier League football and go down, and then not be able to afford the stadium. And then what happens? We're looking at a Sunderland till you die situation. Like it is this scenario where they go down potentially, multiple divisions.
Have you seen the video with Yerry Mina?
I saw this. He got attacked by a fan.
Well, he got confronted, not attacked. He got confronted by fans asking if he would stay if they went down. But I think I mean, we're now halfway through the season, and Everton fans are talking about going down. Like they're
ready for it. Yeah.
And I think you said it earlier. It's like this is where it's become like this toxic environment. Like this isn't going to encourage them to do what they need to do. And like they're not so far down the road. We're halfway through the season. Everton can win 7-8 games this season.
Of course. Yeah.
But not with this kind of momentum. Like they're shoot as a collection of fans, they are shooting themselves in the foot right now by being this. I don't know. I know there must be hugely frustrated and there's like a lot of heat behind all these justifiable, we should be better than we are kind of things they're saying. But I mean, maybe save it for the summer. See if you actually go down before you like work against your cause.
Yeah, like when you're in these scenarios, you need the fans to back you, right? Like you need them to help you get through the difficult times. That's sort of what a fan base is for, or used to be anyway. They need that. They need something to give them motivation to push on, which they actually got last season, right? We saw what happened last season when Richarlison, basically single-handedly from a goal perspective, scored a few goals for them. I think 6 or 7 goals in the last 10 games. Got them through that, and the fans were in it, and they were with him, and they were with the team, and it was like everybody was there, everybody's in it together, and this seems like the complete opposite vibe. Like it seems like they went from that to completely thinking like it's a disaster, it's over.
Well, maybe they'll sign Danny Ings, like JP says, and that'll be their hero.
Yeah, maybe they need somebody to score goals for them because.
Damari, I was just going to say, so Damari Gray's got a third of their goals, and he's registered as a midfielder. So and he's got more goals than their attackers combined.
Calvert-Lewin is like non-existent now after what he was before.
He's been injured though. I think he's only played like 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, he's really struggling with injuries.
Yeah, and he has done. He did last season as well. I mean. Yeah. Even when they managed to get out of that last season, he was injured for most of it. It was Richarlison who got him through it. But what happens with Lampard here? Like, why
Frank
is he
has
not
to go?
I don't understand. Huh?
I think Frank has to go.
I agree, but like, who do you bring in to save them?
Pochettino.
Poch does not go to Everton in this situation. No, I'm not saying he should. I'm not saying he's
as an example
good to, but I'm not. I just don't think he says yes to that.
They should be focusing on a manager that has managed before, who is not sexy, who is not going to be the guy that takes them to top 6. Just somebody who can come in and be like, right,
stable the ship.
Right, we have to win 7 games. Here we go. Let's do it. Even if it's an interim thing.
Who left in the pool to do that you know of that would be like come into this side and be able to do that? You don't have the same sort of managers we used to in the Premier that do that anymore, right?
Unai Emery wasn't in the conversation much before he popped up at Villa. Like Lopetegui at Wolves has done a good job. He's pulled them out. So that would all point to Spain. Like they have the ability. You saw the impact that Nuno had at Wolves as well a couple of years ago. So, someone like from south of Europe feels like that could work.
And you can get these guys. They can have a job right now. And
Nuno's available. Nuno, I just don't know that he's good enough to do it. But maybe for that size of club, it's perfect for him.
I'm not mad at Nuno as an option.
I think Nuno's good enough. He's better than this guy. Ultimately,
100%.
Everton have got a bad squad. They've got bad morale. They don't need a bad manager on top of that. They need a manager who's going to get the very best. Oh, running. They need a manager who's going to bring the very best out of the limited quality that they've got. And that ain't Lampard. And I actually do think that Lampard could be a decent manager at the top level, at the top end, by the way, because of his experience. But he's never been in relegation fights. He doesn't know this world.
He has no idea. He's a winner, not a person who has to deal with being a loser to become a winner.
It's like why Zidane can take over Real Madrid, but would struggle with a Stoke.
100%. It's a different mentality. You think differently. Your expectations are different from your players. Your players are much worse than what you're used to dealing with. So you have to try to get something out of them that you're not used to. So that from a manager, even from, not saying he's been a good manager, but he was a good player. and that was what he was used to, was a level of expectation that he thinks his players should meet, and they're just, none of them are good enough. So he's going, why can't I get them to be like I used to be? And it's like, well, you're not gonna. They're not as good. You have to think about it differently.
Why can't you be the best ever Premier League midfield player or in the conversation like I am?
Be the best, still be a brilliant
Plus
manager.
goals.
Doesn't translate.
So we're gonna shift over to another
Welcome,
conversation
JP, by
real
the way.
fast.
Let's
JP
welcome
California has joined us, everybody. Top of the table, because this has started getting a little bit of heat this week. This discussion, this question, if there is actually a title race. Arsenal, Man City, Man United were briefly in a conversation, and Newcastle. I'm going to say it because I think it has to be said. It's a 2-horse race, and let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let's just all agree. This is going to be a 2-horse race between Arsenal and Manchester City. Manchester City are still very much in this race.
I'm going to reluctantly disagree with that, and I mostly agree, but I'm only going to reluctantly disagree because I do think, as we were talking about, as Zaz were talking about earlier, it is still arguably mid-December. Like, we're not in mid-January like everybody thinks we are. There's a lot of games left. I think after what we see, the Spurs City games, and after what we see with Arsenal playing City and United, when they play those teams that are in and around them that are better than Spurs, because let's be honest, Spurs are shit at the moment. You know, when they play teams that are good enough to put them to the sword, how do they deal with it? They could lose. They could drop 6 points quickly to City, and that could put Man United, even though Man United aren't necessarily playing at the same level, it could put them at a 3-4 point difference. 3-4 points is doable. Yeah. And if Arsenal all of a sudden lose a few games and they lose their confidence, they're a young side. I'm not saying they will. They've been brilliant. They've dealt with the pressure very well so far, but that pressure could get to a team that isn't used to dealing with that pressure. And there could be teams or players within the other teams around them, not Newcastle. I think United are the only team that really potentially.
For me, this is framing why we're not giving Arsenal the title right now.
Yeah.
And not necessarily that it's not a 2-horse race. I still think the only team that can actually keep up with them and has the experience and the chill factor about this,
I agree
and
that.
the squad depth is still Man City. Like, they've been here. Yeah. They haven't chased necessarily a team that had this kind of an advantage where they've been playing badly. Like, Man City haven't been playing well. But, like, they are still the team that can be like, okay, well, we're just going to not lose again for the rest of the season.
I think the thing that I'm saying could happen here, and again, this is not in any way a slag or a biased position. I'm stating this because for football reasons. Arsenal are a very young team. They could lose it a little bit. There's a potential for them to, have all this confidence and then get spanked a couple of times by 2 different teams and they're in or around them and lose that confidence, and that becomes a scenario where those other teams could catch up. It doesn't mean that Arsenal.
But again, if I look at the other teams, and everything you're saying is totally correct, and that to me gives Manchester City the advantage to get into the race. I don't think Man United have the squad and can really in the race. Like, they'll have moments where it feels like, oh my God, are we almost in the race? Like, are we almost in the race?
That's
is us ahead of schedule.
Yeah,
and then Newcastle
agree with that, but you never know, and in those scenarios can change.
Like, I'm not giving Arsenal the title. I'm not handing them off and saying, here you go. Like,
no, I just add to that, to Brian's point about how many games are left. So if United beat Arsenal on Sunday, which is very possible even without Casemiro, and City have already beaten Wolves earlier in the day, that basically means the title is in City's hands because they can win the 6 points against Arsenal. So the 5 points doesn't even mean anything. That's how close Man City are to being back
to just taking over, essentially.
So there's so many points. There's 60 points to play for. Like, it's way too soon at the moment.
Yeah.
Can we think about this for a second? We're only 18 games in, 19 games in. So you're talking, we have almost
more than half
games.
The season
left. more than half season left. But at the same time, most of Arsenal's deadly games are coming up in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So to me, if Arsenal is still holding this lead in 6 to 8 games, they win the league. It's over. Like, I don't think they're looking back. I think that's time frame.
I think you're just stating.
I would agree with that to some extent.
Yeah. That's a non-disputable claim. I'll put it that way. Like, if what you just said happens, that means they beat Man City twice, which means they've taken 6 points away directly from.
It's done.
Yeah, which is done. I can't see happening.
Well, I mean, they can still lose points in other games. They can still draw a game here, lose a game there. But
But they've won
if Man City lose 2
over.
points, if Man City lose 6 points, the buffer will be so high. And also at that point, we have to start talking about how Manchester City are playing. And Pep is saying things like the league is over. We had a good run. We won 2 in a row. It's
cycle needs to
fine.
come to an end, and maybe this is one of their off-cycle.
This is not. This is not a cycle coming to end. This is a team that won 2 back-to-back titles. 3 has only ever been done once. They've been injured the entire season. They're playing experimental lineups. Like these guys are still very much in their cycle. They're just not going to win the title this year. And this is probably ironically the year they win the Champions League or go really far in the Champions League.
Yeah. Well, no, Pep will mess it up. You know, he's going to just twink that team. I'm going to sit Haaland in the Champions League final and everything goes down the shitter.
Jack Grealish is a false 9 all day.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to burst your bubble, by the way. The football existed before the Premier League. It's not been done once, but we can continue.
In the Prem.
I said in the Prem. Everything is harder in the Prem.
He did say the Prem, to be fair.
Okay.
And everything is harder in the Prem. I know football existed before the Prem, and Liverpool fans must love that. But since the Prem started,
why is football
best league in the planet?
Why is football harder since the Prem started?
The quality of talent in the league, in the country.
Oh, okay. So you're writing off the first 5 United titles in the Premier League because the league was shit then as well.
Yes.
I mean, that's a fair
100%.
I mean, like you don't go from like
yeah.
You don't go from like
no, that's why I tend to brag about the year that we won the Prem, the FA, and the Champions League. That's maybe the year I brag the most about.
That would be a pretty good one to brag about. If you did brag about that one, we'd have some questions.
I tend not to brag so much about the first 5. Those are just kind of like getting used to things. You know what I mean?
They were gimme titles.
That was the glory hunting moment for Paul when that happened. He's like, I'm a fan of United.
Because I
think I was like 8 years old. It was a while ago.
Title was against Villa, actually.
Yeah.
Villa and the mighty Norwich were
Man
United's opposition.
You know who's not living in the past? You know who's not living in the past? Fucking Chelsea. Who have
Barcelona, you mean?
In 6 months.
Okay, so quickly before
468 million pounds.
Shout out to Eric Bradstock, who is now a part of the channel. He's a Chelsea fan. He's watching, arguably. He's one of the 3 watching. I'm hoping so. Eric, get in the comments and comment on this. But go on, Paul. Sorry to interrupt.
I mean, okay. So the bigger story here is that 468 million has been spent in 6 months, which is fucking crazy.
Bonkers.
I've actually seen tables where they've shown the new signing as like an actual starting 11. They've bought enough players to fill out a starting 11 by position and look like shit. To be honest, it didn't look like a good starting 11. This is fucking madcap.
Cucurella for 60 is unreal.
They just brought in Modric. I'm going to take this off the screen so we're not looking at his ass in his face. But Modric just came in. Now, this signing is maybe one of the more interesting ones lately because for all intents and purposes, this kid's an Arsenal player. He's going to Arsenal. He's been talking about Arsenal. He loves Arsenal, blah, blah, Arsenal. Blah, blah. And then out of nowhere, Chelsea swoop in and they sign him for fairly ridiculous sum of money, I think, for a guy that I don't think has done enough to warrant this kind of investment.
How long has he been a professional? Like less than 2 years?
Right. And a lot of people are talking about the terms and conditions by which the payment structure has been made for this player spread out over 8.5 years so that you're kind of, in a way, working the system. Nothing wrong with that. It's not shady at all. If it's anything, it's a risk on the player and the team to do that, to agree to that. But I really don't know what the fucking transfer policy is at Chelsea right now. It feels like if you're young and you're talented and you're super expensive, we're gonna buy you.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna ignore everybody that we have in our own academy and our own young players and our own players that we have out on loan, and like we're just gonna buy the youngest and brightest potential stars.
It comes across to me like the ownership doesn't even know they have
an academy.
No, seriously, like they don't understand that the academy is.
And that's a Spurs fan saying that, folks. That means something.
It seems to me like he's completely unaware that he has access to all of these players. that are very good players that are either out on loan or coming through the system that are is equally as good as all of these other players that they keep spending money on. It reeks of somebody who has no idea what they're doing. Like there's no clue of how things function in sport in Europe or in England.
His son is playing FIFA with Chelsea Football Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
on
exactly
Brian's point, did you hear his keynote when he first joined? And he said Mo Salah and Kevin De Bruyne came through our academy system. So he doesn't know what
he doesn't get it. He doesn't know what it means.
He doesn't get it. He doesn't know.
And he doesn't understand the loan system. He doesn't understand how or what sort of access he might have to some of those players that are out on loan and how he might bring them back to his own squad if he feels like he needs to fill positions that he has without spending money that probably have or the same quality, if not better than the quality that he currently has, or he's trying to get from other teams or steal from other teams like he's done from Arsenal. It is so funny to watch. It's like it is an American in a European world that he does no clue.
No, he's never even opened a book.
He's never
I gotta give
eaten
him credit because he is opening a book. It's just his checkbook.
He's never eaten a plate in his life.
I don't get is that you hire a manager who I thought, if anything, he brings a very good eye for talent acquisition and identification. He sees guys who are 10 million before they're 50 million or 60 million, and he brings them in and he works with them, and he's done a really good job at Brighton doing that. Why are you just buying whoever's
Everybody.
like the hot kid? Like he's buying YouTube players. Like Mudryk might be a really great player, but like literally he's famous because he started on TikTok doing tricks. Like he's played 1 or 2 Champions League games and looked really good against struggling German teams that are not playing well right now. Like I'm sure Potter didn't walk into his office and said, "There's a kid in the Ukraine. I really need to have him." Like who's running the ship here? And why are they foregoing the one thing that Potter brings to the table, which is strong talent identification?
Yeah. Quickly, Paul, we have some Chris in the comments who's a Chelsea supporter who wants to have his say. Come on and have his say. Do we want to give him an opportunity to do it? It could be interesting. All right. I'm gonna pop it in the comments, Chris. Better come with your A game there, fella.
It'll be up for only a short amount of time too.
We're gonna give you 10 minutes.
Oh my God, Chris, please. Family and friend watch the show. So if I see her bare ass on screen in a second, I will.
Well, we're gonna find out in a second.
I will be entertained and then shocked and entertained.
It's in the comments.
We'll rate it. We'll probably rate it.
Hop on if you want to hop on. Be ready to go. But yeah, it is absurd, Paul. What you're saying about the like, why do you bring in that coach? Why do you bring in Potter?
They put a bucket load of money in his mouth, told him to shut up, and we'll just give you everything, and you go coach.
And they're not done. They can't be done. They still need to build a midfield. They still have so many things that need to get filled.
At $1 billion, which, by the way, was supposedly how much when he bought the club, he had destined $1.5 billion for the club and infrastructure, and he's already spent half of it on players.
It's nuts, man. It's absolutely insane.
Crazy. It's insane.
It makes zero sense.
Because we're waiting for Chris, and I don't want to move on from Chelsea too fast. I do
We're going to give you 2 minutes. To keep talking about it. If you don't come in, you've missed your point.
You got like 2 minutes.
There is a bit of a fun conspiracy theory that I've heard about this Mudryk signing, where part of the conditions of the sale of Chelsea was that Chelsea would be committed to buying the next top Ukrainian talent. And I was like, well, that's weird. But then a big chunk of this purchase has gone to Ukrainian war efforts, like 20 million, I think, of this purchase.
All right, let's bring in Chris, guys. We got Chris here. He's gonna talk about this. Chris, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the North End. Thank you for being here. Give us your thoughts on what we're talking about with Chelsea, and tell us we're wrong or whatever your thoughts are.
Well, first of all, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, first
no
of
problem,
all. But yeah, look, the situation with Chelsea is a bit. It's not good as a supporter, yeah. Because look, I love Chelsea Football Club, and it's my life. But when I see people like Potter being appointed, that's when I start to get frustrated, because this guy is not going to be the answer. And no one can read the future, of course not. But in the same time, I don't see this guy being able to turn it around. At the end of the day, He's got no, and I said this when he was in there. So you'll never ever see me say Potter in because I never wanted the guy in the first place, right? But my whole point was, look, he's got no track record of handling pressure. He's got no track record of even handling expectations. Because let's face it, with all due respect to Brighton, he never had any expectations at Brighton. You go 7 games unbeaten, or you go 7 games beaten at Brighton. There's no really any pressure there. But when you go 7 games, look at it now. He's under pressure after only being in the job for 4 months. So for me, I just don't see him being the man to get Chelsea a Premier League, and I don't see him being the man to get Chelsea, trophies, and that's why he was brought in. So if
Chris,
I don't see
how did you feel about Tuchel going?
Disappointed, very disappointed, because I thought. This goes back. I'm not just saying it's only Potter, by the way. There's 3 factors for me: Bowley, Potter, and the players. Right? Bowley, because what you just said there was the Tuchel sacking made no sense whatsoever. Made no sense. We spent money in the summer. We look worse, and then we sack Tuchel 7 days after the window shuts. And then we get Potter in, who has no experience there. And, he done well with Brighton in the start of the season. But as I say, it's different situations there. But, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to not give Tuchel until January. Of course, we started off the season poor with Tuchel, but at the same time, he's also a manager who is world class, and he's also a manager who's stuck by the club when the club was sanctioned, stuck by the club with the Lukaku situation, and stuck by the club and got Chelsea a Champions League within 5 months. The guy deserved time, and he never got it.
Do you think there's something to the idea that Tuchel was vocal against Bowley? Like, Tuchel saw how Bowley was thinking about buying and building a team and was vocal against it, and that Potter's more of a play ball kind of manager.
Potter's a yes man. Yeah, Potter's a yes man, but you don't get anywhere in football by being a nice guy. That's the reality of it. And Tuchel, as I say, whatever Bowley was given it, Tuchel deserved a say in terms of the players. I believe the players that we brought in the summer, there was only 3 players Tuchel actually got, and he wanted: Sterling, Koulibaly, and Aubameyang. We got Aubameyang on deadline day, and he sacks him 7 days after the window shuts. So what's the point in going for Aubameyang when you knew you're going to sack Tuchel? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. How are you with the signings that have happened so far? I mean, Aubameyang has been arguably a bit of a shambles when it comes to like what you're getting out of him. He's probably not necessarily good enough for the Premier League anymore.
Let's talk about the most recent, like João Felix,
fitting into Potter's
the most expensive rental player ever.
Yeah, you spent how much money on João Felix? You've lost $2 million on the red card alone from that happening. What are your thoughts on the transfer business, like what you see happening in the? It's a bit of a mess and a bit of a scattergate.
Okay, well, I've got I've seen the list there in the bottom right. Okay, Fofana injured. I can't say anything about him. Cucurella being disastrous. He's not shown his height.
Terrible, isn't he?
I expected much better from him, considering he worked under Potter. Sterling, he's been okay, but at the same time, he's not going to be that creative, that attacking force if he's got no creativity in the team. Koulibaly, very poor. Badashile, he started his game just there against Palace. I thought his debut, he was good. I thought he'd done well, considering it's his first game. So yeah, I thought, so let's see more of him. Chukwuemeka, I think since he's played, when he's been given the opportunity, I feel he's done very well. But this is my frustration. This is also my frustration with Potter, is he's done well, but yet Potter will still pick inconsistent players. And let's face it, players that have living off previous moments in a Chelsea shot, like Havertz and Mount. So yeah, Chukwuemeka done well. Aubameyang, I mean, it was a disaster since he signed because Tuchel wanted him. Yeah. Fofana, the attacker, he's just come in. Need to see him play. Andre Santos, midfielder, he's still in Brazil, but apparently, he's highly rated. Let's see what he does when he comes in. João Felix, the 50, 60 minutes that he played against Fulham, he made an impact, but in the same time, I reckon
in the time he was there, and then gets a red card. And
I reckon we're going to sign him on a permanent deal. Because if you look at Atletico's business, they're getting Memphis Depay. Where are Atletico?
He just signed an extension in Atletico before he got loaned out. He signed in a year extension. He's not.
That's fine. Contracts mean nothing in football, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
He's just
fair enough,
that contract is just so they can sell him. Like
Yeah.
Chelsea and his
he's
time
in
at
the
Chelsea is a
he's in the
shop window.
He's in the window for Atletico at the moment. For sure.
But yeah, you know what? If we sign him, I'm not going to be too bothered because at the end of the day, I reckon he'll offer more than what the likes of Mason Mount, Pulisic, and Kai Havertz have been offering. As for Slonina, the goalkeeper, he's just been signed in the summer window, so we need to see how he does. But he won't do too much badly than what.
JP, what do you know about Slonina? He's American.
He's raw. He's super young. He's athletic as all hell. But you know what? You're not going to see anything from him for a year, probably.
Yeah, that's true. But even if he comes in next season, at the end of the day, he can't do a worse job than what Mendy's been doing. Zachariah, I would sign him on a permanent deal because I think he's been very consistent in the midfield, and when he's given the opportunity, he's took it. As for Mudryk, we'll see what he does against Liverpool on the weekend, and let's see how Trent Alexander-Arnold deals with that because we know how bad Trent is. And Nkunku,
a little dig there for
Christopher Nkunku. Let's see. He's doing it in Germany, but I prefer Rafael Leao. But looking at Joao Felix, Mudryk, and Nkunku front three next season, I'm not going to be crying over that. So let's see. But there you go. Look, see the signings there. But Potter's been back there. Potter's working with better players than he'd done at Brighton, and Potter's not doing a good enough job as a manager to be getting the results for Chelsea. No one can tell me Potter cannot do a better job than what he's doing because he can.
So question for you, JP, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, we asked about Graham Potter. We asked about the signings. What do you think about your new owner? What do you think? Like, he's putting his money where his mouth is, but is that what you would have wanted him to do? Would you want something a little different?
I like the guy, to be fair. I was not one. Look, I love Roman Abramovich, and I'm not scared to say that. A lot of people are scared to say that. Look, at the end of the day, the guy is the best owner of football ever, in my opinion. You won't see the guy have that success and that impact, right? But when it time for him to go, out of the people that came forward for Chelsea, Todd Bowley and his vision, what I'm seeing so far, he's spending money, and he doesn't seem to take shit. Sorry for swearing on the channel, but it doesn't seem like he takes any
fucking away, man.
We don't give a fuck.
Doesn't seem like he takes any rubbish off anybody. It doesn't doesn't seem like the kind of guy that will mess around. And with the consortium as well, with the stadium expansion, I think so far it's early days. So I'm not going to say he's good. I'm not going to say he's bad. But in the same time, we are spending money. We are addressing it. He is backing the manager because the manager's given the green light to these signings. So at the same time, so far so good. But
Chris, before we let you go, Chelsea currently 10th in the Premier League, which is pretty shocking in itself. Where do you see Chelsea finishing at the end of the season? And without Champions League and arguably a ton of lack of investment because of that, where do you see Chelsea going post this season, or arguably finishing outside of any Europe in general?
I see Chelsea finishing where we are, 10th, to be honest. I just feel like the only way we're going to get Champions League is if we get
even Europe in general. Even if it's Europa League, there's money there. I don't want to be. You're going to make some money from it.
I don't want to be in the Europa League. I don't want to be in the Conference League. I just want to be in the Champions League.
Yeah, avoid it. If you're going to have a bad season, be bad.
Yeah, it must be so nice being able to choose, guys.
No, but look, where we are now, that's where I reckon we'll finish. In terms of getting Champions League football next season, the only way we're getting is if we win it this year. And you know what? Knowing Chelsea, it wouldn't surprise me if they done it. I'm not saying they will, but it wouldn't surprise me if they won the Champions League based on what we've done before. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's not going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. In terms of next season, though, we need to massively improve. And if it doesn't, Potter's going to be sacked very, very quickly. Because
potentially 5 years at Wembley when your stadium's getting rebuilt, finishing 10th, not in the Champions League, lack of money. And Chelsea in a bit of a shit show at the moment. It's not a good state of affairs.
But you know what? Even if we didn't get Champions League next year, I don't think it would be that big a deal. As in, we would one game a week would be massively helpful to the team, considering the fact of this season. So with the new signings coming in,
always good for the football, but financially not necessarily as good.
I don't think Bowley cares financially. I
know, but he's going to reach a point where he can't spend any more money because there's going to be
the consortium will finally put a hold at some point, but it ain't yet.
Brian, were you gonna say FFP? Because that's a joke.
Well, I was going to say
they would
FFP
pay
does
them.
come into play to some extent, and so
They would pay their way out of that.
Well, the new rules is it 2025? The new rules come in, and I think it's very smart on that end that the contracts were given for Mudryk, for example. The contract we gave him 7.5 years. It's 10 million a year. So Bowley's smart that way. We've found it. But at the end of the day, if clubs like Man City can bend the rules, why can't other clubs?
That's
you'll find a way. You'll find a way. When you're rich,
there's no FFP.
Chelsea have bent the rules before. Like, let's not,
they're the club that changed the game.
This isn't like a like I just had an idea. Let's bend the rules.
No,
Chris,
but
done
at
it
the
before.
same time,
We'll do it again.
When you see,
thank you for coming on. We do have to move on. We've got a bunch of other topics.
No worries, mate.
Chris, before you go, Chris, question for you.
Go ahead, Paul.
Where are you calling us from?
So I'm from Scotland, but I'm in London, mate. Yeah, London.
Whereabouts in Scotland are you from?
I'm from Ayrshire. So, yeah, don't know if do you know it? Ayrshire, anyone?
Yeah, I know. I summered in Scotland when I was a kid. Ayr is
yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm from. Yeah, but I'm from South Ayrshire. There's North Ayrshire, South Ayrshire. I'm from South Ayrshire. Yeah.
Ah, nice.
Well, Chris, thanks for being on, mate, and we'd have you on again if you want to join us. To represent Chelsea. We've got.
Well. I mean that's if we don't get relegated. But I'll join whenever. Yeah, sure.
That's Everton's spot.
yeah, you'll be all right, I think, this season.
Right. But, no worries, lad. Thanks for having me. Talk soon.
Cheers, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers,
thanks for being with us. Cheers. Have a good one.
That was nice. That was our first call in.
Yeah,
and
nice, fantastic.
And he was well backed. I like it. I think he had a little bit of something about it when he was.
He knew his stuff. He
was on it. He had a solid opinion on it.
Cheers, Chris. We appreciate you, man.
So let's wrap it just by having a quick little look-see at the games this weekend.
Yeah.
I kind of miss going over previous games. I won't lie. I did like going over those.
Liverpool, on the heels of what Klopp is calling the worst performance he's ever seen, not just at Liverpool in his entire career, they welcome struggling, big spending Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm up for it. This is going to be great.
It's going to
be a good game, I think. The battle of the mid-table teams right there. It's
going to look like the next game on the list.
Battle of some mid-table mediocrity happening here.
Yeah. Welcome. Join us.
I love Azaz's face. He's just like, he can't say anything. He wants to.
I'm like the Spurs fan is talking like about mediocrity.
It's sixth place mediocrity, not mid-table mediocrity. Yeah, we haven't been 10th. We haven't been 10th in 10 years. So.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a nervy day. It's gonna be a nervy day. Are you gonna be out with your crew watching the game?
I am, yeah. I'll be at the pub. It's gonna be an early one. I was actually there for the 7 a.m. game this week as well. So it's like 2 in a row. But yeah, no, I feel like for me it's we just gotta get one win to break this 2-game losing streak. Like it's crazy. The big teams actually don't lose 2 games back to back that often.
Yeah.
So it's a crisis for us at the moment. And yet, when you look at the table, same shit that we were talking about with Arsenal, you see a couple of teams lose in front of you and you win a couple of games and you're right back in that conversation for top 4. So Liverpool have to beat Chelsea on Saturday because 1 point from 9 is pathetic, to be honest with you, regardless of injuries or anything. And the fact that we've got a big team coming to Anfield, we always raise our game. Beat Man City at home this year, so we should really be getting the.
I think it's a comfortable win for Liverpool for me. I don't
I would like to think so.
In Chelsea's form, I think, like you said, at home, I think it's,
Liverpool
not flying, but better than Chelsea at home for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And the last thing I'd say is all 3 of Nunez is going to be fit on Saturday, but then Darwin and Diaz are actually on treadmills and exercise bikes and stuff. So like we just need to be in a decent enough position to push for a top 4 spot by the time they're all back. So we need every point in the meantime because we can get cut adrift at this point. Like if it ends up being like 12, 13 points.
You should knock on wood. You should knock on wood because next thing you know, your goalkeeper pulls a hammy this weekend or something.
It's true. There's something is wrong.
Yeah, I mean the injuries at Liverpool are nuts. I just want to mention before we move on to the rest of the games on Saturday, you're not on this list. Is not the game tomorrow, which I do think is relevant because it is title challenge. conversation between Spurs and Man City, and so obviously with Man City in the situation they're in and their title challenge, we should probably chat about that before we move on to the other games. If you guys want to, if you don't want to, then...
I'm expecting Man City to win. But I'll just say it. Honestly.
Yeah, I am as well. I'm not like there's not a lot of difference between your opinion and mine. I just thought because it is like a title decider potentially.
Yeah.
City win this game, they get 3 points, and then they go on to play Arsenal twice. I think
maybe a way to frame it is that when you look at the table we've been showing, maybe this is the 47-39 or it's going to be 47-42,
which makes it much closer going into that game. Yeah, which is kind of my point. But yeah, I do think City win this comfortably. Like I rarely pick Spurs to lose because you always do that for yourself. Yeah, I got a 3-1 City win on this comfortably, so I'm not surprised otherwise. But I just thought I'd chuck it in.
Triple captain Holland.
I got him captain. So
I think Tottenham will actually play well too.
Oh yeah, Tottenham won this fixture a number of times. They
did the double last year.
So this isn't actually we beat them 4 out of the last 5 times in this fixture. So this is a fixture for Spurs that's typically good. But that you would say that as well in the North London derby at the weekend where we got spanked. So, Spurs, like the home team in that North London derby back and forth was the home team always won since 2014. So, all the things that have happened previously right now, Spurs form is just we're dog shit at the moment. So
I'm just excited there's a game on Thursdays. I like Thursday games.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah.
I said it. Controversial. I said it. I'm not going to go through every single game. I'm just going to call it the games I think are worth talking about. West Ham, Everton in the somebody's going to get fired game. And
yeah, that's a good one.
I think I called it 2 weeks
that's
ago.
The sacking El Sakiko part 2. That's what that is.
JP.
I did bring it up. I said they're playing in 2 weeks after this game this weekend. And I was like, these 2 next weeks are huge for Everton.
Cool. JP bragging that he can read a schedule.
Fuck you.
West Ham. Both these teams are so bad. Both these teams are so bad. I think it's going to be a good game, though.
I think it'll be entertaining, but like not because the football's good, but because it's messy and back and forth, and it'll mean a lot. And the coaches will be fucking high stakes. That's why.
And I expect to see like some fighting in the stands.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I look forward to
get involved.
I'm going to draw attention to Man City Wolves because I do think Wolves are the bogey team for Manchester City.
No, Spurs are the bogey team for Manchester City. Let's be honest.
A bogey team. They don't have to be the. We'll take the word the.
Only one the.
They're a bogey team for Manchester City. As will tell you, Wolves can play pretty well sometimes against good teams.
You said good teams. That doesn't include Liverpool.
But Manchester City, I think that should be an interesting one, and also kind of dovetails nicely into the next game, which is Arsenal hosting Man United. Man United, obviously, on pretty good form.
Very excited today.
Before that, we're looking pretty good.
A good late game on Thursday.
I will be cheering for United for the first time in a long time, Paul. So maybe we should get together and watch that game. That would be fun. Hit the pub or something.
I think Dog and Bears. When where we've been going lately. Problem is I always go with Dave, and then I stumble out at like 7, 8 in the afternoon.
Hammer drunk. Oh, that's not the afternoon anymore. That's the problem.
You're my type of people. I didn't get out since
you don't recognize the time anymore when you leave.
I don't know. It's just the danger of watching those games with Convery. I don't think it's better if you're there. I think it's probably the same.
Right, well, I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. If you
all right, well, you're invited to the Dog and Bear. And then the last game, which is Fulham, and like this is a weird one because you wouldn't expect this to be that big a deal. But Fulham, Tottenham,
they look good.
That's a league standings game. Like that's an important game for the league standings. They're back to back in the.
Who knows what that will look like post the City game as well. So it'll be.
It'll look like the E3.
Spurs lose that game and coming against City, having lost, Fulham could go past Tottenham. Certainly.
But that's wild if Fulham passed Tottenham. Like
Conte might not be the manager anymore at that point.
He's too expensive to fire.
He's not.
No,
I'm sorry. He's not too expensive. Daniel Levy is too cheap.
No, they fired Mourinho. He's not too cheap. He doesn't care. If it affects him, he'll do it. If it's for him, he'll do it. If it's for the club, he'll be cheap. It's not how it functions.
Well, Brian says it might happen, so we don't know for sure, but we'll find out. Probably, I would
likelihood.
imagine after the City game, pretty close to after the City game, right?
There's a likelihood he'll be gone by next week.
Do you think this would be like one of those things that, as we're watching the end of the City game, his body language will like kind of give us all indication of what's happening next?
I think that's a possibility. Yeah, I think there's a feasibility for that. That he'll. I mean, if his body language isn't already given you a sense of where he's at, but not even his body language, his actual the things he said. You know, like he's literally in the media saying like this club is not doing the things they said they're going to do, and they're not telling me what I'm supposed to be doing, and there's no vision. Like he literally said that in the media, like in the last couple of days. So, you know, he's not hiding anything, which I prefer. At least he's being honest about it. But it's a shit show at the moment, and
he's not hiding anything. Unlike Brian, who's hiding somewhere dark. Has anybody else noticed that Brian's like?
Yeah.
I'm just in my living room. I don't have a light on.
It's like interviewing a vampire.
Oh, Jed, you guys are being silly.
If
I turn the light on, it's like washing from the side. It's even this way.
I can't even see your hand motions. I just know
that better.
Something.
Is that better for you?
Well, the show's over. So we course corrected too late.
Whatever, pal. You're just like washed out. All I see is white.
Because I got pale
Pasty
Scottish skin.
Pale, white,
all you were gonna see.
Pasty Canadians.
You're like this Bobby White thing.
Hey guys, go find some sun. Come on now.
I've got
California. Go find some sun.
I got a
know,
Colombian
it's so
tan.
sad outside.
Like,
Get your raincoat.
You can see my face.
Global warming. It's the end of
so
days. It's funny. We're having a good time.
I have so many clothes wet right now.
Well,
all right, that's the show. This is the end.
Thanks, Chris.
Everybody say bye.
Cheers, guys. It's been a pleasure. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that, smash that, do all the stuff. See you next time.
Peace.
Peace.
This is the North